All right, listen up, you glorious map gazers. The EU5 hype train just dropped another absolutely stacked dev diary.
Oh, yeah? What's this one got?
It's all about the spicy stuff, Protestant religions and the war of religions.
Ah, the Reformation mechanics. Always a big one.
Exactly. So if you're like me, an EU4 veteran, practically fluent in dev speak, but still trying to wrap your head around how this is all shaking out, well, you've landed in the right place.
Yeah, consider this your veterans briefing on the religious upheavals coming in EU5. We've basically dissected the diary, wrestled with the implications a bit, and we're here to translate all that Tinto talk into something you can actually, strategize with.
Nice.
So our deep dive today is really laser focused on understanding these new religious mechanics. We want to figure out how they're going to redefine gameplay when we finally get our hands on EU5.
Okay, so where do we even start? Well, the foundation, it seems, is the classic Protestant trifecta.
Right.
Lutheranism, Calvinism, and good old Anglicanism.
Right, the main branches.
But this isn't your grandpappy's Reformation, apparently. There's a whole new level of customization coming.
That's the key thing. Forget just picking a denomination. EU5 introduces church aspects.
Church aspects, okay.
Yeah, they're essentially the customizable tenets, the little rules that define the specific flavor of your Protestant faith within those broader categories.
So it's like building your own unique brand of heresy. I like it.
Pretty much.
The diary mentioned each Protestant branch starts with 3 of these aspects, though they did say that number might still see some tweaking, which, paradox.
Always subject to change, yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting for us, min-maxers.
Go on.
Different religions can apparently have completely unique aspects, and the entire system is scriptable and moddable.
Whoa, okay. Think about the long-term replayability and the mods. Oh, man.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, too, is the potential for, nuanced historical representation.
How so?
Well, the devs use the example of the early Anglican Church compared to its later, more, puritanical forms.
Right.
These evolving theological aspects can now be reflected dynamically in the game through this system. That kind of raises the question, how will these evolving aspects influence long-term national development and flavor?
Good point. Okay, let's dive into specifics then. First up, Lutheranism.
Okay.
The devs gave us a sneak peek at a game where the Reformation went a little off script.
Oh.
Yeah, it kicked off in Perugia, of all places.
Perugia? Seriously?
Yep, resulting in a beefy Denmark embracing the Lutheran faith.
Huh. Okay, Denmark.
And just like our Catholic buddies in EU4, Protestant nations are getting their own form of religious, well, let's call it juice.
Juice.
Religious influence.
Ah, religious influence. Okay, yeah, that acts as a resource unique to the Protestant religions. In that Denmark example, they had a pool of 100 religious influence.
Right, and this resource is key for 2 things, apparently.
No, let me guess. The aspects.
Yep. Adopting or swapping out those church aspects we were just talking about.
And the other.
Performing religious actions.
Right, the special buttons. Makes sense. They did note, though, that in that particular snapshot, Denmark couldn't actually perform any religious actions yet.
Yeah, probably because they hadn't met certain, in-game triggers or conditions.
Sure, but then they showed us the religious aspects panel for the Lutherans.
Oh, yeah, that looked like a buffet of potential bonuses. Some shared across Protestantism, others uniquely Lutheran.
Plenty of options. We even saw a little preview of actually picking an aspect.
This level of, granular control suggests that even 2 Lutheran nations could end up feeling really different to play.
Yeah, totally. Depends on the aspects they prioritize. Imagine one focusing on internal stability and another on, aggressive expansion.
All within the same broad Lutheran framework.
Exactly. You start thinking, what kind of new national ideas might synergize best with specific religious aspects? Could get complex.
Yeah. Definitely strategy potential there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Calvinism.
Okay.
Now, for us seasoned EU4 players, this one should feel somewhat familiar.
How so?
The devs specifically pointed out its structural similarities to Lutheranism. It spawns during the Reformation, spreads thanks to those tireless Calvinist preachers, and yes, it also utilizes religious aspects and religious actions.
Okay, so a similar core loop.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed playing as, the Netherlands or Switzerland and stacking those sweet trade bonuses or Republican ideas, this could be right up your alley.
Right. The structural parallels probably aim to create a degree of intuitive understanding. If you grasp one, the other shouldn't feel totally alien.
Makes sense. Less overwhelming, maybe.
Which, of course, raises the question of balance. Will one of these branches emerge as clearly OP, because of their available aspects and actions?
Always the question. Will there be a meta-Protestantism? We'll see. For the black sheep of the family, at least from a Catholic perspective.
Yeah, Anglicanism.
Yep. They're rightfully highlighting it as a distinct branch of Christianity, acknowledging its, well, let's say unique origin story.
With the monarch firmly in charge, yeah.
Exactly. Interestingly, Anglicanism also uses religious influence again, showing 100.00 in the example.
Okay.
And it's part of the church aspect system, though they stay with 0 aspects in the example they showed.
Right. And the unique formation, they illustrated that with the Take Command of the Church event.
Oh, yeah. Triggered by flavoring 0.7.a.
Yeah.
Those flavor events, they add these unique occurrences, right?
Exactly. Specific historical or national stuff. And this one looked like a real turning point for England. Adds Anne Boleyn as a character.
Nice touch.
Converts Pops and the nation to Anglicanism. Hits stability pretty hard, -20.
Ouch.
Upsets the nobility, -10% satisfaction for the Lord's estate.
Double ouch.
And officially founds the Anglican religion. That's a pretty hefty set of consequences for one button click.
Absolutely. And the religious actions available to the Anglicans look particularly spicy.
Yeah.
Very on brand.
Like what?
We saw the return of dissolved monasteries, naturally.
Of course. Got to get that cash.
Alongside intriguing options like militarized religious icons. Wonder what that does.
Yeah.
Reformation diplomacy, deport heretics, encourage innovativeness, progress of the Supreme Governor, and of course the classic grant ruler divorce.
Huh. You can't have Anglicanism without that one.
It wouldn't be right.
These unique actions really underscore the distinct flavor of Anglicanism and its close relationship with the state. That progress of the Supreme Governor one hints at a mechanic focused on consolidating royal authority over the church, maybe, potentially offering unique bonuses related to stability or taxation, perhaps.
Could be. How might players best leverage these unique Anglican actions for strategic advantage, you think? That's the real question.
Definitely something to theorycraft. But it's not just about the main Reformation players, is it?
No, the devs also gave a quick nod to other religious movements that might pop up. Things like Lollardy and Hussitism.
Right, the pre-Reformation stuff.
And even earlier heresies, like Bogomilism and Catharism.
Wow, going way back.
It sounds like the religious landscape is going to be richer and more diverse than ever before. Can lead to some very interesting early game scenarios, maybe.
Yeah, this broader religious representation adds significant depth, especially to the early centuries. It opens up possibilities for unique regional conflicts, different alliance dynamics, stuff that extends beyond the usual Catholic-Protestant divide.
Could we see entirely new religious leagues forming based on these, less common faiths?
Maybe. That'd be wild.
Oh, here's a thought that really gets the strategic gears turning. With these church aspects in play, international relations could get seriously spicy.
How do you mean?
Imagine two nations, one Lutheran and one Calvinist, finding common ground and forming unexpected alliances because they share certain key aspects.
Yeah, I see that. Shared theology, even across branches.
But then again, even nations within the same broad Protestant family could find themselves at each other's throats due to conflicting theological nuances represented by their chosen aspects.
That's a crucial insight. Religious alignment might become less about just Catholic versus Protestant, and more about the specific theological details defined by their aspects. Much more fluid, less predictable alliances.
Diplomacy just got a whole lot more complex, which, could be good or bad.
Could definitely shake up the traditional balance of power in Europe.
And now for the grand finale, the War of Religion.
Big one.
This is the big daddy of religious conflicts, right?
Hey.
The culmination of all that simmering tension, especially within the always exciting Holy Roman Empire.
Catholic League versus Protestant Union, duking it out for religious dominance in Europe. The example showed Kyburg as a potential Protestant Union member, and Mansfeld on the Catholic side. Yeah, get ready for some massive league wars, potentially.
Oh, I am ready. The primary actions during this period seem to be join religious league.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
And negotiate member removal. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so forming a strong league and strategically managing its composition, maybe trying to peel off members from the other side, will likely be critical.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see how the AI handles these complex league dynamics. Will they be smart about it?
Always the million-dollar question with Paradox AI, isn't it?
True. So how does this all-out religious brawl actually end?
Well, One side has to achieve total victory, basically. Win a religious superiority war. Enforce their dominance.
Okay, decisive victory. But there's also the potential for a more, well, let's call it the everyone's tired of fighting scenario.
The Peace of Westphalia, right. Kicks in when 80% of the participants just want to call it quits. War exhaustion, maybe?
Seems likely. And here's the twist. Even if the war is a stalemate, a negotiated Peace of Westphalia can still happen.
So it doesn't have to be a total win or total loss.
Apparently not. It could still rewrite the religious map of the Holy Roman Empire through negotiation. The example screenshot, thankfully, showed no active war just yet.
Yeah, the possibility of a negotiated peace, even after a major conflict, reflects the historical realities, I think. Adds another layer of strategic depth. It's not always about crushing the enemy.
Right, sometimes it's about politics and just being too exhausted to fight anymore.
Exactly. And they mentioned strife in the Holy Roman Empire, painting a picture of a fractured political landscape ripe for intervention by external powers.
Oh, yeah. Setting the stage for some truly massive, chaotic conflicts.
Yes.
Sounds like peak EU.
Definitely.
All right, let's try and boil this down for you, eager EU4 veterans listening. The new church aspect system. That's the star of the show. Huge customization potential for your Protestant faiths.
Yep. Unprecedented level of control, it seems.
Religious influence is the currency, the juice that fuels this customization and those crucial religious actions.
Got to manage that resource.
Each of the main Protestant branches, Lutheranism, Calvinism, and Anglicanism, with its very, very English origin story, has its own distinct flavor and strategic possibilities.
Unique actions, unique starting points.
And the War of Religions looks like it's going to be an absolute blast, potentially reshaping the entire European landscape.
High stakes, big potential payoff or failure.
So the big questions we're all thinking, right? Will min-maxing church aspects become the new meta? How utterly OP will certain aspect combinations be?
Someone will find them.
Will the AI be smart enough to form effective religious leagues and not just, get steamrolled?
We can hope.
And the perennial question, but will this actually work in the late game? Or will it become a tedious micromanagement nightmare?
That's always the risk with these complex systems. It's worth remembering, though, Paradox has a track record here.
True.
They refine these kinds of systems based on player feedback. They did something similar with national ideas evolving in EU4, right? And species rights and Stellaris.
Oh, yeah, good point. Like how they added policies later.
Exactly. So it suggests that this church aspect system is likely to be dynamic. It'll probably evolve with future updates and tweaks. It's not necessarily set in stone at launch.
Hopefully. Looking ahead, the devs teased that Ed Johann will be back next time for more Tinto Talks.
Okay.
Probably dropping even more juicy details and maybe some further adjustments based on, well, maybe even posts about this diary.
Could be. So definitely keep an eye out for that next deep dive.
Yeah, stay tuned. Now we want to hear from you, the strategists listening in. What aspects and religious paths are you most excited to explore? Or, potentially break?
I'll be honest.
Smash that like button if you found this deep dive helpful. Subscribe so you don't miss our future analysis. And seriously, let us know your initial thoughts and predictions down in the comments.
Yeah, we want to hear your takes. Ultimately, these new religious mechanics look set to significantly alter the strategic landscape of EU5. They'll inject a huge amount of replayability, I think.
For sure.
The ability to tailor your religion to your specific goals, plus the high stakes of the War of Religions, it could lead to entirely new and unpredictable historical outcomes.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
What kind of long-term strategic doctrines do you think will emerge from this new level of religious customization? Will we see entirely new ways to play based purely on theological choices? Something to ponder.